Hey everyone, this is Rabbitearsblog, and welcome to my top 8 graphic novels of 2018 list. So before I get into this video, I would like to remind everyone that new videos will be posted up every Sunday. It can be Sunday morning, Sunday night, or Sunday evening, depending on when I can get the videos posted up. And if you happen to see any videos posted up during the week, that must mean there was a bit of movie or TV show news released during the week that I wanted to cover. So those would be considered special videos. And now let's get on with this video. Um, so for this year, I was only able to do like top 8 graphic novels because I didn't read a lot of graphic novels for 2018. Usually I do a top 10 list, but because I didn't read a lot of graphic novels in 2018, I'm just doing the top 8 lists. And also bear in mind that there might be mild spoilers with the first two with some of the comic books on this list because I have read like some of the same mini comic books from the same series, and this particular series I read them back to back, so there might be some mild spoilers on this list. So yeah, make sure I put that in the title of this video so you guys know which comic books might get spoiled in this video. But now let's get into my top 8 graphic novels of 2018. So starting with number 8 is Jughead Volume 2. Um I have read the first volume of Jughead years ago, and this is like the reboot version of Jughead, the one that was written by Chip Zdarsky, I believe. And in this volume we see Jughead go on many adventures. Like he goes on a camping trip with Archie, his best friend, and they end up getting in a fight in their story. And then also in this volume, Jughead goes out on a date with Sabrina, but then he has a hard time trying to tell Sabrina that, you know, he likes Sabrina, but he doesn't want to date her because he's asexual. So and he had a hard time trying to tell Sabrina all that. So that's pretty much what happens in this volume. So my thoughts on this volume is that I really enjoyed this volume way better than the first volume. It just felt like when I was reading the first volume of Jughead, it felt like they didn't really establish the story yet or establish what kind of character Jughead's going to be at that point. Here we get more progression on Jughead's character, and I like the fact that they explore more about Jughead's asexuality in this volume, and how he's struggling telling to tell people about it. And that's what I really enjoyed about this volume. And I also think this volume, the most of the stories in this volume were very well written. I really like the storyline with Jughead going on a date with Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I thought that was really interesting. So overall, I gave this volume 5 stars, and that was number 8. So moving on to number 7, and that's Book Love. So Book Love was this graphic novel I read over at NetGalley. And what this graphic novel is about is that we get to see we get to look at the world point of view of a young girl who loves reading books. And basically what this graphic novel is all about is like telling us what book lovers or book fans have to go through whenever they're reading books. Like for example, if there's like a favorite sequel, say like you read this awesome book, but then this book has a sequel and you're like, oh, I want to go ahead and read the sequel because I love the first book. But then you had to wait like a whole year or two just for the sequel to come out, and that could be really irritating sometimes. Or you could be like, you know, you're reading this great book and you promise that person that you're gonna like do something else or put the book down, and you're like, oh, okay, I just got one more page to read in this book left, and you're still reading the book anyway because the book is so good. And I really like this graphic novel because it really relates so much to anybody who loves reading books, and it related to me so much because I love reading books. And a lot of the details that this book talked about regarding about how readers feel about books in general really resonated with me, and it's such a fun and cute book to read. So I definitely would recommend checking out Book Love whenever you get the chance to, especially if you love reading books. And overall, I gave Book Love 5 stars, and that was number 7. So moving on to number 6, and I got my pile of comics here this time. Number 6 is I Hate Fairyland Volume 2, Fluff My Life. So this graphic novel takes place after the first graphic novel, after Gertrude is almost has a way to get out of Fairyland, but then she ends up killing Queen Claudia, who was like the main queen of Fairyland. And in doing so, it turns out that Gertrude is forced to become the queen of Fairyland, which is something she didn't want to do because she was spending the whole first volume trying to get out of Fairyland. But she was doing such a bad job at being a queen that they ended up firing her, and this causes Gertrude to go back on her journey to trying to find a way to get back home and get out of Fairyland. So I really enjoyed this graphic novel. I thought it was really funny, and I like the fact that we still continue to see Gertrude fighting against all these different people who try to prevent her from getting out of Fairyland. I also like the artwork in this graphic novel. Like, it's still humorous. I always enjoy Scotty Young's artwork because it's so hilarious to look at, and this is some really good artwork in this volume. The only problem I have with this volume is that I felt like the storyline was like a repeat of the first volume, and also there was like times where the storyline just got a little too all over the place. Like, there were so many places that Gertrude was going to on her journey that it felt like yeah, what was the main story of this volume. It seems like we're reading several different stories going on in this volume. But overall, I really did enjoy the second volume of I Hate Fairyland, Fluff My Life, and I gave this volume 5 stars, and that was number 6. Moving on to number 5, and that was I Hate Fairyland, Good Girl, Volume 3. So what happens in this volume is that Gertrude is still trying to figure out a way to get out of Fairyland, but she decided that she might as well be a good girl this time instead of killing people every time she goes on a journey and killing everybody she meets along the way. And she's like, let me be good for one time. For just this once, so I could get out of Fairyland. So Gertrude ends up becoming a good girl. She ends up being nicer to a lot of people, and because of this, it makes it easier for her to get the things she really needs to get out of Fairyland. And I can't really say much about the ending, but it was really shocking about what happened at the end. And so I have to wait till volume 4 to figure out what's going on there with the ending. But I really enjoyed this volume from I Hate Fairyland because I like the idea about Gertrude trying to be a good girl for once and not trying to kill people. It was a really interesting like an interesting point to make in the story about how Gertrude's actions affected her throughout her journey, and how she figures, maybe I should be a good girl for once and actually, try not to kill anybody, try to ask for people's help instead of like murdering them whenever I go across Fairyland. And I really like that aspect of the story. Also, the artwork by Scotty Young is, as usual, very humorous to look at. I always love Scotty Young's artwork in this book. So, overall, I gave I Hate Fairyland Volume 3 5 stars, and that was number 5. Moving on to number 4, and that's The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina Volume 1 The Crucible. So what happened in this volume is that we get to see a darker retelling of the Sabrina comics from the Archie comics, and we see that in this version that Sabrina's father was like a part of this cult, this evil cult, and he ends up putting Sabrina's mother in the mental hospital after Sabrina was born. And in this volume, Sabrina's still trying to live her life as a regular teenager without anybody knowing that she's a witch. But in this volume, when she turns 16, she has to attend this cult to verify that she's going to be a witch for real. And that's pretty much the gist of this entire volume. It's basically Sabrina discovering she's a witch and discovering about what she has to do on her 16th birthday regarding the cult. So I really enjoyed this volume. This is a part of the another darker retellings done by Archie Comics. Like, years ago, I had talked about Afterlife with Archie, which is about the Archie gang getting involved in a zombie apocalypse. This one it's still pretty much about Sabrina discovering she's a witch, but it has a more darker tone to it. Like, we get to see a more darker side to the witchcraft themes that goes on in Sabrina the Teenage Witch. And we see that involves a lot of blood and a lot of killings. So, and this is what Sabrina is a part of. And also in this volume, we see that this woman is trying to go after Sabrina because of something that her father did to her years ago. So I'm really interested to see where that's going to go, if Sabrina's going to meet this woman in later volumes or not. And also, there was Netflix had just picked up the show, picked up this graphic novel for a TV series. I haven't seen the TV series yet, but I'm planning on doing so now that I read the first volume of the series. But I can't wait to read the second volume. And also, the artwork is very well done. It's very nice and creepy, but it's also very realistic. It's much more realistic than what we saw in Afterlife with Archie. So I really love the artwork in this graphic novel. But I really enjoy this book just for having a darker, edgier tone to Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So overall, I give The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina Volume 1 5 stars, and that was number 4. Moving on to number 3, and it's Alex and Ada Volume 2. So what happened in this volume? Well, basically what happens in Alex and Ada overall is that it's about a young man named Alex who ends up buying an android named Ada, and throughout this the volume, he like questions Ada about why she doesn't feel emotions and stuff like that, and he ends up going to this forbidden place where he tries to have someone fix Ada so she can have emotions. And basically, the second volume is focused on Ada experiencing these emotions for the first time, and it was then that she discovers about how androids are being treated in their world, and how she wants to do something about that. So that's pretty much the gist of volume 2. So I read the first volume of Alex and Ada, and while I think that the first volume was decent, I think the second volume was way better. Like, I like the fact that this volume actually explores more about Ada trying to deal with her emotions, and how she's starting to realize about the things that's going on with the robots and the humans. And I really like the questions she's like asking people about, why can't machines do this and that? Why do humans have to do this and that? And I really enjoy that aspect of her character, as she's like very curious about what's going on in the world around her. And I can't wait to read the third volume soon and see where Alex and Ada's relationship is going to develop at this point. So overall, I give Alex and Ada 5.5 stars, and that was number 3. So moving on to number 2, and that's Saga Volume 8. I always love reading Saga, and this is where it gets a bit of spoiler territory, because if you haven't read the previous volume. But in this volume, Alana had a miscarriage, and she has to end up going on this planet where she's trying to find a way to take the baby out of her. But in doing so, it turns out that Alana, excuse me, she ends up getting powers because of the baby inside of her, and she's trying to deal with all these powers while trying to find a place where she can take out the baby out of her. And in one instance, the baby is able to produce like a sort of an image about what Hazel's brother would have looked like if Alana didn't have the miscarriage. And that's pretty much the gist of this book. It's just about Alana trying to find a doctor to take the baby out of her while she's experiencing all these different powers because of it. Um I really enjoy this volume because, yeah, it talks about what it's like to abort a child, or the circumstances surrounding it, and I like how it was able to handle that issue. I was also interested about the storyline about Lana getting powers because of the baby inside of her, and how those powers eventually led to Hazel imagining that she might have a brother, or what the baby would have looked like if Alana didn't have a miscarriage. And I really like that aspect of the story a lot. And that's what I've always liked about the Saga series, is that, yeah, it's about people who live on a different planet, but the situations they go through is very real life. And I always enjoyed that about the series. And also, as always, the artwork is very well done. Let's see if I can find a really good artwork, but here's one. Yeah, so the artwork is very well done. Fiona Staples always does a good job with the artwork, and I always enjoy what she does with the this series. So that's what I really enjoyed about this series. So overall, Saga Volume 8 gets 5.5 stars, and that was number 2. So now, moving on to number 1, and that's Saga Volume 7. So, of course, this takes place before the eighth volume, and finally, what happens in this volume is that Alana, Hazel, and Marco are finally reunited with each other after the sixth volume. They were they were apart from each other. So this volume, they finally come back together, and they had to end up going on this planet called Fang, because they ran out of fuel cells for their ship, so they end up going on this planet, and Hazel ends up making friends with some of the people on that planet. But it turns out that the planet's about to is set to explode soon, and turns out that Alana, Hazel, and Marco had to get off that planet before the planet explodes. So I really enjoyed this volume a lot because I liked how Hazel's trying to develop a relationship with the people on the planet Fang, and then we see like the urgency of Alana and Marco's situations. They're trying to get off the planet because it's about to explode. But what I really liked about this volume is that we get to see the relationships between the characters. We get to see how Alana and Marco try to bond with the people on the planet Fang, despite the fact that they know that the planet's going to blow up soon. And as always, Fiona Staples' artwork is very well done. I think she does a really good job with detailing the characters. So I love the facial expressions. It's like some of my favorites. So I've always loved what they were able to do with the characters in this series. So overall, I give Saga Volume 7 6 stars, and that was my number one pick for 2018. Hope you guys enjoy my top 8 comic books of 2018. Hopefully, in 2019, I read more graphic novels, and maybe I'll do a top 10 list instead of a top 8 list for 2019. But yeah, that's pretty much my top graphic novels of 2018. And be sure to follow me on Twitter so I can keep you updated on any videos I post up. And also, like my Facebook page, Rabbitearsblog's Best Comments. And also support me through Patreon so I can continue to put out great content for this channel. Well, hope you enjoyed this video. This is Rabbitearsblog, and I'll see you later.